Hello, everybody. This is Jessica Hamby, my EDL 853 Module 3 interviews. I want to start by saying that this was a bit tricky this time of year. My most trusted administrators that I see as mentors and my special ed teacher that I choose to work with the most are both on a cruise and in Mexico right now. So that I think that's good and bad. I reached out to some people that I don't work with quite as much and was able to get some but limited information. However, working as a para, working as a teacher, and actually acting in an administrative role over the last year or two as building leader and in district leadership positions, I had some background myself in each of those positions to add. So first of all, as far as public awareness tools, screening practices, and early identification, the administrators, I think, look quite a bit more towards data. The one administrator that I did communicate is our assistant superintendent, but he is also the preschool principal, so he sees these kiddos super, super early. And so looking at the screenings that they do at the preschool level, whether it be informal documentation, letter awareness, the colors, things like that. But we're getting ready to use ages and stages, which will be very helpful both academically and socially. But we also look at our Ames Web data, our Terra Nova data, and we have great communication early between parents and teachers about things that we see as positives or areas for improvement or concern to be looking for. The special education team, teacher mentions data collection, the SIT team process, observations that we do when we notice something with a child, that we get involved right away, even prior to the SIT team, and get input and listen to one another for ideas. Charts, for example, with one student that I had this year where I did a minute by minute peer to student comparison over about a month with different observers, just to look at patterns for behavior. Prior to one of our meetings. The paraeducator, again, I think they didn't give me very much here, but I added what I know that I have watched them do or asked my para support educators to do, or that I've done myself, which is helping with data collection, any documentation that you can have, and sharing information prior to the SIT meeting or conferences of things that maybe we just aren't aware of, and getting their input and ideas as well. What is the most challenging part? The administrators gaining parent support, and I do believe that is what I have noticed as well across all roles, is especially early on, if the parents are uncertain or not very accepting of what you're sharing about their child. Same with getting the parent to participate in the IEP development. Sometimes I've witnessed that they aren't asked, but when they are, I think that they feel very, I don't know if it's not knowledgeable, but not sure of the process, or maybe a little bit intimidated by the process. And then helping parents to understand that really some of the components of the IEP need to be implemented at home and followed through with at home to make them successful. The special ed teachers 100% would say the paperwork, the goal, and IEP writing and development. And then the one special ed teacher that I know is on a cruise right now, we talk quite a bit about people management. Not necessarily in a bad way, but we've got a lot of students across the building. We have limited para support, and just trying to get everybody managed the most effectively and working. Then you have, paras that call in sick, and you have to cover different classrooms, things like that. The paras would mention space to work with students in our building, because though inclusion is where we're at, there are times that we need a student to go to a quiet environment, whether it be on the IEP or just because that's something that is needed in the moment. It's hard to find a spot. We are packed to the max in our building, and both of these ladies have been paras of mine in the past, and I know that both of them have struggled with not being able to fix the issue the student might be having at the moment, or the disability itself is very hard to accept. the most rewarding across everybody is seeing growth in the student, whether it be a light bulb or conquering a situation as it occurs. It might be an emotional meltdown, or it might just be learning two vowels. The EA says E, but either way, when we see that, it becomes very rewarding for us. As far as advice, for administrator, I like that David said, use a hands-on approach. And that's absolutely right. Don't be afraid to get in there with the students, build relationships, and really listen, especially if it's an area that you don't have a lot of background. Neither one of our administrators have any background in special education. And so they have to be good listeners and really get their hands dirty and learn what works best. And, like David said, it's very easy to, when you're supervising staff, to lose track of what the para's role in upholding the IEP is. And when you have a lot of students, that's hard to be able to remember for each child what their role is. So it takes a lot of trust in one another as a team. The special education teacher is, again, communication, communication, and communication. Building stronger relationships and trust so that your teachers and your paras and your administrators feel that they can come to you with about any issue and you guys can handle it as a team. The paras feel that they want to be supervised, they want to be held accountable of the IEP, they want to be supported and have good communication. Working with parents, communication. Again, I've always been a big believer that communicating up front can resolve a lot of issues before they ever occur. And it's not just communicating what's happened in a negative light. It is communicating at unexpected times all of the smallest positive things that child did that day. That way, when it is time to have a tough conversation, you have a great relationship. And like the special education teacher, Alicia, said, daily or weekly reporting is just that way they can look for it, and having some sort of communication, email back and forth, or social media, or a daily folder that you write in back and forth can be the biggest help for both of you. One of the paras said to me, I love sharing the funny moments of the day because it kind of lightens that burden, because sometimes those parents at the end of the day are waiting to hear some of the negative things, and that's not always the case. Sometimes we don't need to share those things. That's just part of our day, and we've resolved them. And be good listeners. The parents know that. I'm really happy that the paraeducator said this, but I also believe it's because generally the paraeducator is the one that might be walking that child out at times to deliver them to their parent. And they need to be good listeners. Sometimes parents just want to share something from the morning or the evening, and they need to listen and communicate that to the appropriate people. Working with the regular education teachers, the administrators, again, David only shared that there was special time. He was at the preschool, again, trying to make sure that the students have access to many, many teachers and with all of their peers, and building in some special times for that. As far as the administrators in the elementary, middle, and high school, I'm going to go ahead and add in here that it has got to be the communication, just like the special education teacher mentioned. Quality upfront communication early on, not overstepping your boundaries, not sharing something with a para that hasn't been talked to with the teachers ahead of time, things like that, parents. Good teamwork, creating a positive learning environment, and sharing the vision is the role of the special education teacher there with the regular ed teacher. And the paras educators said they work best with the regular ed teachers if they have respect. And sometimes that's hard, especially if they share different viewpoints, what should be happening day in and day out. There is a line of respect, and when things don't go well, they need to understand how to handle that too, and what is their pathway to reporting that. Do they speak with the regular ed teacher first prior to the special education teacher, or vice versa? So listening for advice too. Paras talked about, the regular education teacher has a lot of knowledge and experience, and they need to listen to their ideas and suggestions and take them seriously, because they have a lot more time a lot of times in their role. But I have had situations where the paras have been in education longer than I have. And so there's got to be listening on both ends, but they need to understand what their role is in supporting the classroom teacher. And sometimes they have to back off of some of their deeper beliefs because it's the way that the regular ed teacher and the special ed teacher have created the environment and how things should work. What advice did they have for first-year administrators? David, my administrator I spoke with, talked about approaching every issue from the perspective of the child, parent, and teacher, which is one of the most powerful statements of this whole interview process, and I believe it wholeheartedly that that's important. And he said it's easy to fall back on what you know, and sometimes you don't know what's best, and you need to listen, and don't be afraid to understand the support services. And if you don't get in there and dig through the weeds and figure out what's going on. The special education teacher talked a lot about the administrator needs to be flexible, and the paras talked about that too. And that's for sure important because I've seen it happen in action, and things don't always go as planned, even if it's written in the IEP. And so sometimes we just have to do what we can, do the best that we can, and help each other out. Communication through every single question is important. And then I like this one because I feel this way as a regular ed teacher. Our administrators need to involve all staff in their communication and the training and show support across the board. We have an administrator right now who I feel like needs to have some improvement in this area. The paraeducators want administrators to be patient. Not only good communicators, but have patience and build relationships. Work with teachers and listen for input and ideas from the paras too. And that's easy to forget when they refer usually to the special ed or the regular ed teacher. So I thought that was interesting. The role of the building principal, they need to be like David said, special education is a team sport. So they're there as part of the team, and they're communicators, and they can help listen or give input or advocate for the child what's best and oversee the IEP process. And, being knowledgeable about what is lawful is important too. The special education teacher says the principal should support the staff members and be the glue to the building or the go-to person for questions and input. And I agree with that. Among all the other things that principals do, they need to be the go-to person sometimes when nobody else is sure. And so having a good background is important. The para said principals need to support the teachers, be a leader, and handle major tasks, supervise the students and the teachers. Quite a bit to put on the back of the principal, but I feel like that if we can come in with some experience and ask questions ourselves and have good resources that we can do that. What characteristics do you seek as in your aspiring administrators? David said they should have an open mind, an open heart, and open communication. And that, I believe, is true. The special education teacher said they need to be honest, fun, positive seeking, caring, flexible, kind, and knowledgeable. I think that some of these answers come from experience in our building where our principal really doesn't have any teaching experience or background in education. And so sometimes he avoids the situation altogether. The para says that they need to be self-motivated, flexible, good communicators, patient. They need to have a passion and love for the job, be involved in what's going on, and understanding when things don't quite go the way that they need to go. So in all, I think that this interview with these professionals was good for me. I was able to predict a lot of these answers the way they are, but I was really happy to see relationships and communication being a common thread through all. The biggest surprise for me was how much I heard the word patient and flexible, and I think that is definitely something that everybody is seeking, and it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge with all the unexpecteds and all of the all of the variables that go on in special education, but that's where the principal has got to have, a backbone and a personality where they can be a leader and help manage that process. So thank you.